Lord of mercy pours down over me. Christ took my mess and nailed it to a tree. I've needed a lift more than a time or two. Thank God I'm alive.
Hey everybody, welcome to our first weekly internet broadcasting on Facebook Skyline Group. Let's get right into the exhortation or the thought, the weekly blurb from Zechariah 4 verse 10. It's about the day of small beginnings. Listen to this. For who has despised the day of small things? For they, those people who despise the day of small things, for they shall rejoice and shall see the plummet in the hand of Zerubbabel. Zerubbabel is rebuilding the temple here. He's been sent. He went with a handful of people, the second Exodus, if you will, from Babylon to rebuild the temple here. And Zechariah is sent to encourage him and his team to get after it. And the prophet Zechariah, he says, listen, there's going to be a day when all those people who despise this day of small beginnings, working with all these busted down walls and trying to fix it all, they're gonna look back and see the great presence of God in the temple as a result of putting their hand to a small project or a huge project, but starting with small beginnings. I'm thinking of Paul telling Timothy. Timothy had become, the Apostle Paul, you know, and Timothy, he'd become the pastor of a 10,000 member church, so they say. And can you imagine a young guy, young minister, trying to be a pastor of a 10,000 member church? So daunting task. Paul writes him, listen, there's people in your congregation that are probably despising your youth. Don't let them do that. Exhort them, teach them, tell them the direction that they need to go. Here's the point. If God has led you to do something, start a business, start a church, begin and strategize and start with small steps, then that's exactly what you need to do. Don't worry about what the naysayers will say. Don't worry about people who despise you and your young efforts or even your young age if you're a young man or a woman. Go after it with your whole heart. Get your heart stirred up in what the Lord speaks to you. Get on fire for it and get after it. Count the cost, strategize and get after it and keep after it. Okay, think about the old Chinese proverb, maybe it was a Japanese proverb. It says the journey of 1,000 miles begins with what? One step. And of course we know that it's an old cliche, an old proverb. You heard people say it all the time. But think about a baby. Babies don't come into the world running. They come into the world messing up diapers, right? And then they begin to roll around, they begin to crawl a little bit, and eventually they can pull themselves up on the couch and walk around. They fall a lot, but eventually the terrible twos comes, and those wonderful children are running around the house having a great time, and eventually they learn to take large steps and become adults and prosperous and members of society, impacting society, hopefully for the positive. But think about that as you do your journey. It's just baby steps to start with. It's just crawling perhaps to start with. You might even mess up your diapers a little bit, if I could be so graphic. But eventually you're going to start running. Eventually you're going to start running fast and taking large steps. And you'll look back and go, oh, I'm so glad I didn't give up. I'm so glad that I stayed the course. Listen to what Galatians 6 says in verse 9. But we should not lose heart in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we do not faint. Another translation, the Good News Bible, puts it this way: so let us not become tired in doing good, for if we do not give up, the time will come when we will reap a harvest. So you have to go through the due season. You have to not get weary in well-doing. The Proverbs, I think, and maybe it was the Psalms, that says the righteous man falls a bunch of times, 7 times, but every time gets back up, and he keeps on going, right? So let's end with that verse that we started with, the 10th verse, Zechariah 4, 2 different translations. Check it out one more time. Those who have made fun of this day of small beginnings, they will celebrate when they see it. Zerubbabel holding the tools, and the temple is all done behind them, and the presence of the Lord is coming into the place. They're going to look back and marvel at that and be glad that that team with Zerubbabel finished that day of small beginnings and went on to create such a great temple for the Lord. And good word, or God's word translation, who despise the day when little things began to happen? They will be delighted when they see the plumb bob or the plumb line in Zerubbabel's hand. And so there is a day of small beginnings for everything. For Skyline Church, for this little video from a webcam on my desk here, in my pink background, in my dusty office, and a couple of little lamps on the side here. Eventually, someday, we hope to do something much better and bigger that'll be a blessing to more people. But who knows what will come of it? But I can guarantee you this: God gives you a plan, you've got a purpose, and you have a destiny. You have to get after it, and don't give up. Don't become weary in well-doing. Keep after it. In due season, you're going to look back and go, man, look what God has done. You'll profit from it, and God will get glory from it. All right, so stay in there, hang in there, and keep going after it. All right, next week we'll update this and something else wonderful and spectacular. Until then, God bless you.
A flood of mercy pours down over me. Christ took my mess and nailed it to a tree. I've needed a lift more than a time or two. Thank God I'm alive, singing this song for you. A flood of mercy pours down over me. Christ took my mess and nailed it to a tree.